Hello everyone, this is Satish Kumar. So I'm here with another lesson on Indian economy. This is my continuation on banking structure in India. So in the previous lesson, we learnt about the banking structure where we learnt about the scheduled banks, non-scheduled banks, and the different types of scheduled banks like public sector bank, private sector bank, um, foreign banks. Okay, so in this lesson we will learn about the remaining banks. So another type of scheduled bank is regional rural banks. Okay, see the nationalization that of banks that happened in 1969, no, and also earlier, all these aimed at making the banks reach the masses, to the people who could not reach, who are not being penetrated by bank. Okay, so the major reason of nationalization is that. But even then, the commercial banks were not able to, even after nationalization, the commercial banks were not able to serve the weaker section like farmers and other weaker sections. Okay, so to solve this problem, the government set up the Narsimhan Working Group in 1975 and to study the issue. And this committee gave a recommendation, and based on this recommendation, the regional rural banks were set up in by the Act of Regional Rural Bank Act 1976. So regional rural banks were first set up in India in 1976. Okay, the first bank was set up in October 2, 1975, with the formation of Prathama Gramin Bank. Okay, so the major purpose of the regional rural bank is to provide credit to the weaker sections of society at a very concessional rate, because the people in rural areas, because they are not able to have contact with bank, no, so for their financial need, small financial need, they are they are depending on some private money lenders in rural and semi urban areas, and these money lenders charge as much as 100% 200% interest. So people are suffering, the weaker section like farmers and other poor people. This is because they are not having access to bank. So to solve this problem, so the first objective is to provide credit to the weaker sections of society at a concessional rate. That is very important. Okay, the second is to mobilize the rural savings and channelize them for supporting productive activities in the rural areas. See, you have to understand, um, at that time, more than 60% or 70% of the people are not yet in the banking activity. In India, the people who do their transaction through banking were less than 30% or 40%, like that. They are like that, right? So, almost majority of the people are not yet are have access to bank. So the banking, because of that, see, when the banking sector, if the transaction is happening without the banking sector, it means the savings of the people are not utilized. If it is does not go through the bank, that does mean there is a problem. So if a 60% of the people in the rural areas are not even investing in bank or depositing in bank, means that is a huge chunk of money. Okay, so to mobilize these rural savings and channelize them to development of rural areas, that is the second objective. Okay, so these two objectives were the major reason for foundation of regional rural bank in India. So they mobilize this money primarily from semi-urban and rural areas. They also provide loans and advances mostly to small and marginal farmers and agricultural laborers and other rural people. Okay, mostly in the priority sector. In fact, there is a term called priority sector lending. The there are some areas in that, like agriculture, small and marginal farmers, and like that. So mostly the regional rural bank caters to those needs. So the regional rural banks are found with a capital share of central government paying 50%, the state government having 15%, and the public sector banks. One of the public sector banks will be a sponsor for a regional rural bank. It will pay some 35%. That is how the regional rural banks were start up. Okay, and the regional rural banks are regulated by RBI, and they are also supervised by the NABARD, or the National Bank for Agriculture and Rural Development, which is the apex body for agriculture and rural development. Okay, see, within 10 years, between 1975-76 to 1986-87, right, there were almost like 196 regional rural banks were set up with like 14,484 branches across India. Okay, and since these banks were set up with the purpose of serving people with the and that too in the rural areas which are previously not what you say not covered by the commercial banks, and they are also going to loan to the weaker section of the society, and they are going to lend at a concessional rate. All these resulted in the regional rural banks incurring huge losses by the 1980s itself. Okay, the regional rural banks are not making profit; they are making huge losses. Lot of people are not repaying the loan like that, right? And they are also not going to charge a high rate of interest like a commercial bank, because their purpose is to save the weaker section, and they are also saving to people who could not pledge any big what you say asset as a collateral, right? So these banks started incurring losses in the 1980s itself. So as a result, a committee called Kelkar Committee, no, it suggested was set up, and this committee suggested that the government to start opening regional rural banks. So with that 196, no further bank was opened. Okay, in 1987, and they also set up other committees like Bandari Committee and Basu Committee in 1994 and 1995 respectively, for restructuring and strengthening the banks. Okay, and based on these recommendation, so they felt that the obligation of concessional loans should be abolished, and the regional rural bank should also function like a commercial bank. Okay, they said like this because they felt that since they are paying concessional loan, but they are also going to rural area, there will be lot of expenses. To meet those, they should be act as a commercial bank. Okay, otherwise they would be incurring losses. So this obligation of concessional loan should be abolished. That was the one major recommendation, and it was accepted by government. Okay, then it also said that the target client, that is the rural mass and weaker section, no, the regional bank, the purpose is they should cater only to the needs of weaker section and rural people, agriculture sector like that. But these committees recommended this should set free, that is they should lend to anybody, because so they wanted it to become a commercial bank because they are incurring huge losses, no. So they wanted to that doesn't mean they don't want to lend to rural people or weaker section. They want that condition that they should not lend to others. So they remove that clause. Okay, that is the second major recommendation. So and this commission then the Narasimhan committee also recommended to merge them with the public sector bank that is sponsoring the banks, the regional rural bank. No, they wanted to merge them with that. Okay, uh, see then the amalgamation process started. Okay, as a result now we have only 40 regional rural banks. So the banks, loss making banks are consolidated, amalgamated. As a result, the number of banks of regional rural bank came down. At once it was 196. Now there are only 40 plus regional rural bank in India. Okay, and the amalgamation and recapitalization is going on to make them effective. Okay, then we will see the cooperative banks. So the cooperative banks, okay, are set up by from the loans of primary cooperative society. So the major purpose is to provide loans to the primary cooperative societies, but at the same time they are started by the primary cooperative societies. So it is a loan for people by the people. So what is a cooperative society? So a cooperative society is nothing but some voluntary people coming together to start an institution among themselves. Okay, so I remember growing up that there are some organizations, there are some people who come together and form a cooperative society. Okay, and these cooperative society, they need to be served. For that purpose they started a bank for themselves. Okay, so they generally cater to the rural area. In fact that is also one other thing, they are cater to the weaker sections and poor people. Okay, so what is the difference between cooperative banks and regional rural bank? The regional rural banks are set up by money from central government, state government and the sponsored bank. But here it is set up by the people, cooperative societies itself. Okay, and there is a three-tier structure here. There is a primary credit society at the bottom level, then there is a district central cooperative bank at the district level, and the state cooperative bank at the state level, which will be the apex body. Okay, they are registered under the Cooperative Society Act of the respective states. Okay, they are also covered by the Banking Regulation Act. Thus they have dual regulatory control. Okay, they are registered both under the Cooperative Society Acts of the respective states and also under the Banking Regulation Act. So the managing aspects like registration, management, administration, recruitment and other things, no, these are all controlled by the state governments, while matters related to the banking are regulated by the RBI. Okay, but you have to understand that it has dual control, and whenever there is a dual control it is very difficult to have a proper administration. Okay, in fact if you know one of the management principle, that there should not be dual control, there should be unity of command. So this duality control is going to cause some trouble to cooperative banks. Okay, so at the bottom level there is the PCBs, that is the primary credit societies bank. These bank no um, uh, or start with the purpose of serving the rural people and agriculture people. They also lend loan to urban areas, okay, urban cooperative societies, and if they meet certain criteria, no, they could also become a urban cooperative bank. Okay, and generally they finance small borrowers in industrial and trade sectors in the urban at the urban level, besides lending in the rural area for agriculture and other purposes. Okay, as I said earlier, no, they are regulated by RBI. They also under the control of state government because of the Register of Cooperative Society Act of respective states. So there is a dual control. Okay, these banks are scheduled bank. As a result, they are listed in the second schedule. So they will have to follow the guidelines of RBI, and they also has certain rights like getting loans and other things. Okay, these are all some important points. So next, the district central cooperative bank, which is at the district level, and there should be only one district central cooperative bank at a district, and there should be one state central cooperative bank, and all these different district cooperative bank, no, they should they should report to the state cooperative bank. Okay, they are controlled by RBI. In fact, see, the RBI was actually RBI and state cooperative societies were, as a result, the RBI and the state government were monitoring and controlling them. Apart from this, the RBI has delegated its function to the NABARD to take care, since NABARD is the apex institution for agriculture and other thing, no. So NABARD was also given delegated RBI delegated its responsibility to take care of these cooperative societies to NABARD. As a result, there are three control. Okay, so these are all the issues with. So what are the problems of the cooperative banks? Okay, as I said earlier, the regulation is the biggest issue. They are dual control, or at times three people are controlling them. Okay, and one other problem is, since it is a state level bank, no, and it is have a lot of politicians interference. Okay, in the appointment of staffs in this banks. Okay, as a result, people in these banks lack skill and expertise. Okay, and see, also the politicians and the people, they may ask to loan to people, to the relatives and other people, and this may result in they are defaulting. See, generally they will say, these kind of banks, regional rural banks and cooperative banks were started in giving loans to poor people who are not paying. It is not like that. In fact, most of the poor people may return. Maybe some poor people could not return. It is the other group, a little bit well-off group with some political connection and some powerful people connection. They go to these banks and get loan, and they create these kind of things. Okay, and this is possible because these kind of banks, because they are at the local level. Okay, see, when the control is at the central level, like RBI, for the commercial banks, no, even they are making lot of NPA. That is a different story. But these banks, because it is at the local level, they are also making loan. Okay, so the requirements are politicized. These people lack skill and expertise. Okay, and they don't follow the norms like the other scheduled commercial banks, the public sector banks and other banks. Like, all these are problems of these banks, and they are also leading, as I said earlier, no, it's like fraudulent activities, and all these made this bank to incur losses. Okay, and government are taking steps to overcome this. Okay, uh, then there is local area banks. So these are all the unscheduled banks, the local area banks. So far we saw the scheduled banks. Local area bank is a unscheduled bank. Okay, this was introduced in the year 1996, and this is a private sector bank. And these local banks, no, since it is the name implies it is a local, so a particular area bank. Okay, and so they could cater only to the districts, three contiguous districts. Okay, their jurisdiction is only to that level. And the government believe that these kind of banks will build credit availability. They also will bridge the gaps in credit availability, providing loan to rural and semi-urban areas, and some small and medium level enterprises. Okay, and other agriculture sector and other thing, they will get loan from these banks. Okay, but these banks are private bank, and they are driven by the motive of profit. Okay, and they are registered under the Companies Act of 1956. Hence it is a non-scheduled bank, not listed in the RBI Act of 1934. This kind of information you should know. Okay, at present there are only 4 local area banks, and all of these banks are in the South India: Coastal Local Area Bank, Capital Local Area Bank, Krishna Bhima Samruddhi Local Area Bank, Subhatra Local Area Bank. Okay, these are all the 4 unscheduled banks. Then in recent times, no, recent time, there are also other types of bank called specialized banks. There are some few banks. 3 important banks are, these specialized banks are Small Industries Development Bank of India. Okay, they will help, as the name say, lend loan to small industries for their development. Okay, with providing them loan for modern technology and equipments. So one of the problem for small industries development is they will usually don't have technological capital as a capital for technology. So these banks help them to acquire technology and uh, machineries and other equipments, so that their production will also go, they will also earn more. Okay, so this is the purpose of Small Industries Development Bank of India. Then there is Exim Bank, which is the export import bank. Okay, and there is also NABARD, National Bank for Agriculture and Rural Development, and I will put a separate lesson on NABARD. So this bank is the apex body for rural and agriculture development, and all these specialized banks know they also play a role in catering to different segments. Okay, like NABARD cater to the agriculture and rural sector, and small industries cater to the needs of small industries. There are also other housing finance company related banks, right? Uh, so these are all banks. In fact, they also help to finance microfinancing institution and NBFCs, which you will see later. Okay, the NBFCs, non-banking financial corporation, and microfinancial institutions, they also lend to them. Okay, in fact, these specialized bank lend to them, and they lend to people. So somehow people will get the finance. Okay, see, despite all these banks which are developed, so far we have seen a large number of banks, no, still some people are finding it difficult to have access to bank. Okay, so the government decided to come up with to meet the challenges of bringing the underserved and unserved sections of the population. Okay, for this purposes, in fact, for this purpose, small finance banks were started. Okay, as the name say, these bank offer small amount of offer loans to small farmers, small micro industries, and also to the unorganized sector. a small shop or small store, a small industry, a small farmer with marginal holding. All these people could avail loan from these banks. Okay, and this bank should have a minimum paid up equity capital of 200 crore. Okay, see, the reason small people could not reach the bigger commercial bank is those banks have a lot of collateral and other things which these people could not the um, small people could not, in fact generally they don't get the right kind of appreciate what you say, uh, they don't get the right kind of recognition, or they don't get any their application signed passed in the commercial banks. So as a result, this small finance bank came into being. Okay, and in this small finance bank, the 40% of the initial capital should be borne by the promoter of the bank itself. Okay, and this could be reduced later on to 26% over a period of time by selling, issuing shares and other things. Okay, but initially the 40% of the total, that is up, if it is 200 crore, no, what will be the 40%? It will be somewhere around 50,000, no, 50, 10% is 20, so it will be 80,000 like that, 80 crore like that. That should be borne by the promoter of the bank. Okay, and they can open at any area. Okay, the local area development bank, no, those banks could open only in certain area. Their jurisdiction is only for 3 districts, but these small finance bank could be they could operate at any area. Okay, so this is the difference between local area bank and small finance banks. Okay, uh, and they have to also extend loans of up to 75% of the loan to the priority sector lending. Okay, this is an important point. At present, these are all the small finance bank in India. Please just go through this. Then there is another type of bank called payments bank. This is a new type of bank introduced recently. Both the small finance bank and the payments bank were introduced recently. Okay, and because of this, the banking penetration has reached to a large section of people. Okay, and see, the people who are working in the rural area, people from rural area who work in the urban areas, they will have to send those money to the people in the rural areas, but the rural people and the urban people may not have account in the bank. So as a result, they have to send their money once only when they go to those place, or otherwise they have to. But now these payment banks enable them to open account in the rural area itself. Okay, so the rural people, they could have accounts. So that is the thing about this payment bank. They go to the remote areas. Okay, uh, so this is the major purpose of this bank. Okay, and they are given certain guidelines by RBI. These are all the guidelines for RBI given to the payment banks. So the payment bank can allow its customers to open savings account and current account, but these banks could not issue credit card to the customer. That is one important point. Okay, they could not issue credit card, and they also could not lend money to the people. Okay, they could not lend money, and they could not issue credit card, but they could issue ATM or debit card. They could provide them online and mobile banking facilities. Okay, and the people could only deposit up to 1 lakh only in these banks. So they could deposit only up to 1 lakh. See, this kind of information you have to be very careful. You have to learn, and you have to know these. And there could be questions like differentiate between commercial banks and payment banks. Okay, So these are all the difference, because in a general commercial bank, no, there is no such limit. A person who could open a account in a commercial bank will deposit as much as he like, but in a payment bank they could deposit only up to 1 lakh. Okay, and the payment bank also cannot accept deposit from non-resident Indians. Okay, and payments bank will have to deposit uh, the cash reserve ratio like other commercial banks do. The payment bank will have to invest a minimum of 75% of the demand deposit in government security or treasury bills. Okay, with a maturity of 1 year. So they have to invest 75% of the demand deposits of the people in government securities and treasury bills, and hold a maximum of 25% in current and fixed deposit with other commercial bank for operational purposes. Okay, so these are all some of the guidelines issued to the payment bank. So at present there are 6 payment bank. Previously there were 11, but some of them left the field. So the first payment bank that was set up in India was Airtel Payments Bank. Okay, there is also these five of these banks are private. The Indian Post Payments Bank, no, is a private public sector bank. So one payment bank is a public sector bank, 100% owned by central government. Okay. See, these kind of payment bank, small finance bank, all these will enable uh, to banking to reach to the people who are previously not covered into the banking stream. Okay, and this will result in betterment of economy. Okay, in fact these payment bank and these small finance bank, no, helps to in the growth of an economy, and helps um, people who are previously uncovered by bank to avail the services of bank. Okay, like transfer of money, like ATM card and other things, right? So these are all helpful to them, and as a result, these are all, in recent time these banks serve a very important purpose. Okay, but still Indian banking is not 100% like a developed country banking system, but our banking system is come a long way, and now we have a very sound banking system in India. But there are issues like net performing assets are increasing in banking sector, right? And government is taking steps, but Indian banking system is well managed because it is under the RBI, and the RBI is doing a very good job. Okay, so with this we'll end the banking structure in India, and as I finish, as I said, no, the RBI is doing a very good job. So in the next lesson we will learn about RBI and its function, and how RBI does this, and how RBI act as the what you say uh, plays a major role in the Indian growth, or Indian economy, or stabilization of Indian financial system. That we will learn in the next lesson. We will learn about RBI and its function. Okay, so please keep watching my videos to know more. Bye.